Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the third week of a theme. And quite often we do this, giving you 4 aspects of some kind of subject. And if you've not seen the other weeks, let me just review. We've talked about fear so much. We even had 1 month where we talked about the 4 faces of fear in 2021. In other times, we've given fear in other aspects, and we're going to do it again. This month, if you've listened to the other channels, you know that we're talking about some very, very practical, current fears. Not the generic ones that I could say that humanity had. These are the ones perhaps even for your culture as you hear this. And this particular one has many layers and many aspects, but it's so real. I gave you 2 others, perhaps one which was even controversial, depending on how you listen to it. It's current, and so is this one. And this has to do with both men and women. It doesn't draw a line. I'll tell you what it is. And then I'll start listing the attributes. And then I'll do something that I've done the last 2 times. And that we're going to call on some help. Fear of abandonment. Now in the past you have said perhaps to me, well, Kryon, this particular fear we've heard about you talk about before mostly has to do with one of the genders. That's not what we're talking about. What happens, dear ones, when a son or a daughter decides to discard you? And they do, and it happens constantly. And sometimes it's simply out of youth, and sometimes it's out of sickness, and you can't contact them. You might have spent 15 to 18 years of your life shaping them, and then suddenly they're not there. That is abandonment. The abandonment of a child. What do you do with that? Parents, what do you do with that? It leaves an emptiness in your heart that they don't appreciate you, or perhaps they're gone in some way, and yet they're not. But there's another one. What happens when you lose somebody? And whether it's family or whether it's not, and suddenly they're gone. There is always the fear that you will lose that person or lose the love, and it's a very, very real fear. And you don't talk about it much because you don't want to create it. And that's another thing, the fear of creating things that you think about which you fear. And it's always there. This abandonment can have many layers. You lose a partner. You lose love. That's on both sides, dear ones. And the sorrow of the heart comes from both sides. That's another layer of it. All of you carry this. And you may say, well, I'm never worried about it. I don't think about it until it happens. And then it's a wound. Especially that of death. That is abandonment of some kind. Because they're not there anymore. And you can't talk to them. So what are we going to do here that's different than before? I'm going to explain this every single time this month. We have had something happen. I gave you a circle of 12 episode on this very thing. And if you are unaware, I invite you to go back and find it. There has been something amazing happen within this energy on this planet that creates a difference of the way people think. It is an evolvement, dear ones, that we expected and planned for. It's when you got that 24th chromosome pair that you can't see under the microscope. Why would you have just 23, dear ones? You have 24, and we told you about this. And the 24th one is exceptionally special. It is multidimensional. And this is the time for its activation. We also gave you information that with this activation of the 24th chromosome, something else was taking place. The ones that come in to be with you, which you will call perhaps guides or angels, or even pieces and parts of your own soul, are enhanced at this time. Now there's a marriage going on between the multidimensionality that is out there of all the pieces and parts of your soul and that which is in the human body, which is the 24th pair of chromosomes. This is a marriage, a handshake, where literally you are waking up to something larger and something bigger than you ever had before. What is the theme of Kryon for 33 years? You are never alone. And now you know why that's there. Because in these days of the sun, these days where the energy is shifting, where consciousness is raising and evolving, these days have mechanics to them, and I just gave you one. Your DNA is starting to awaken to shake hands with all that is around you that you didn't know about. You might say you have awakened the team that is here for you. And now that you have this multidimensional part, which is also awakening, the two of you match the team. And in they come. And what does that mean to you? And where am I going with this? You have these beautiful, beautiful helpers that can hug you, hold you, whisper in your ear if it's necessary, to hear all the wonderful things that perhaps you're not hearing or you didn't think you could. And they can soothe that which is a sorrow. And that's what they're here for. These spheres that I've told you about so far, this is the third one. There'll be a fourth. Each and every single one, even separately, could disable you, could keep you from moving forward in the light. Especially in a time when perhaps you're losing a lot of human beings on the planet. And that seems to be a focus. It can shut you down with sorrow. And so that then leads to the fear of another one. Now, what's going to happen when? And that leads then to another one. And pretty soon that giant light worker that you thought you were a few years ago sits there in fear and worry. And that was not the design. And that is why in these times, this 24th multidimensional pair of chromosomes that you have, built for now, are starting to come alive. Shake hands with those who are around you, and suddenly these guides that you think you have, that perhaps you've heard or not heard of or seem elusive, all of a sudden they're in your face. And they're looking at you and they're saying, let us take this burden. Because we need your light. We don't need your fear. Because this can shut a human being down completely. It'll make them have no light, not want to be with anybody, want to be by themselves in a closet. How does that help humanity? And some will say, well, I'm just dealing with my own process. Well, how does that help humanity? It doesn't. What will help humanity is for you to awaken to a grander truth, and that is you have help all by yourself, because you are never alone. Oh, think of this. Make this real. Now, I said this before, and I said it before. The last two weeks, I'm going to say it again next week. You have so much help right now. You can go right there and say, dear guides, dear angels that have come with me, I activate you now. To such an extent that my fears and my worries and my sorrow can be sucked away, dissipated, so that I can honor those perhaps I've loved and lost, or honor even the fears that I've had and said, well, that's very human, but I am beyond that. I am a multidimensional being. And those guides are going to then take it all. They're going to take it all. Imagine they were a giant vacuum cleaner and they could take away all of that which is dirty and ugly that keeps you from light. That's why they're there. But for the first time, again I'll say it, it's because of the time, because of what you've done with this 24th pair that has made all of the difference in the world. This is new, and we have told you that it is for you. Perhaps it's why you're watching this program and this episode. It's always been there. But now it is enhanced. You came in with this. You just never knew how to activate it. But now that all the nodes and the nulls are connected, that's another story, these things begin to come alive and become real to you. So you can call upon these guides anytime you wish, because they are you. They are a bigger part of you that is now inside you, in your biology, increasing you to a multidimensional being like you've never been before. You are not alone. You don't have to act alone. You don't have to carry the burden alone. You have help. And they're here. They're not in the clouds. They're here. Dear human being, blessed is that one of you listening here right now who will take this and work it, understand it, cognize it, and come away differently. It's not just for this meeting. This is the rest of your life. Maybe that's why you came. I'm crying in love with you all. Can you feel it? And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the month that we're going to talk about something so familiar to so many, and especially something that is happening on the planet right now that is current. We told you that this month we are going to talk about fear, and perhaps in a different way than we have talked about it before. In 2021, again, I'll tell you, we did the 4 faces of fear, explaining to you some of those things which all of humanity has on a regular basis. And they've had the things that we talked about for eons. But suddenly we come across something a little different. The current fears, the ones that we're looking at that make no sense, the ones that are more germane to the culture, perhaps, that I am in, my partner's in. And that's what we speak about today. This may seem controversial to some of you, but it isn't. It's about fear. In this particular case, like so many of the other fears we have, these are programmed into you, sometimes from birth and sometimes from events. And it's the kind of thing that we'll call consensus reality. When you hear things a certain amount of time, whether they're correct or not correct, and they say to be afraid of them, you are. Last week we talked about that which makes no sense at all, the fear of God. Why would anyone fear the creative source that loves you beyond measure? And the answer is because there are so many of you who have grown up with doctrines that actually say to do that very thing. And after a while hearing it for so long, that's where your mind goes. And you end up fearing that which is love. These are the kinds of things, dear ones, that will keep humanity in a box that they cannot escape from. They can't escape from it without someone saying, did you think perhaps it could be bigger? Or did you really analyze what they told you? And most of the time you don't. Now, this is, I would say to you, an attribute of the energy you've come out of. It's an energy that comes out of old energy thinking, three-dimensional living, and the way things have always been. Suddenly on this planet, there is a change. If you start to ask those who have channeled like this, and you go back to the indigenous and ask them about their wisdom and what the shamans will say, there begins to be something we'll call connecting the dots. And that connecting the dots brings you to this. Right now, you are here with an earth that is changing paradigms. Real paradigms. Paradigms of thinking. And if these paradigms are going to be changed and accurate, that means there's going to be a little bit of re-examination of what you've always felt was a truth. What I'm about to tell you may seem controversial to some, but don't let it be, please. Just listen. It's about fear. There will be those who wish to hold you back from light by the way they treat you, even in emergencies, where they handle you, even though you're in need. They will give you only what you need to know, perhaps, and then twist a little bit so you're afraid. Dear ones, this is the old way of things. This was always the way of things. It has to do with control of the population. It has to do with control of consciousness. And it's not conspiratorial. Look at it this way. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it's done. Because it's old energy. So let me ask you this. Have you seen any old energy paradigms in the emergency that you've just gone through on this planet? COVID. I sat with a group in Iceland when COVID first came. Sorrowful it was with the number of deaths that occurred. An emergency, indeed it was. But I told you when I sat with that group when it was first exposed, I told you this, that there would be those who make it more fearful than it even is. As awful as it was, and the deaths that were there, and as sorrowful as it was, rather than uplifting and help, you would have those who would take you down and make you even more afraid. I said these words back then. There'll probably be those who wear masks for the rest of their life because they are afraid of any virus, and that this pandemic would change their lives forever instead of for a few years. And that's exactly what has happened. And if you look around at the way it was treated, the first thing you saw was this, that those responsible for informing you, for keeping you safe, for instance, would only report the deaths and how contagious it was and how careful you had to be. And what was missing was the recoveries. There were no lists of recoveries, only deaths. And so in that psyche of yours, there was an implantation of fear. Again, this has nothing to do with the controversies of that which is COVID that you may have heard of. It has to do with the programming of fear. Dear ones, this is an old, old paradigm. These 2 years later, what you're seeing is exactly what I told you, that they have frightened so many so thoroughly that there's no logic or sense to what you see them doing today. The fear has been implanted. So there are those walking around who will always be afraid of a virus, always. You'll see the ones in their automobiles wearing a mask with their windows rolled up and the air conditioning on, not aware of any of the science that a virus could not be there. But they're so afraid because of what they've seen and what they've been told and how they felt about it, the deaths they saw, that they'll never take that mask off when they're in their car. A desert island, a man walking his dog with his mask on the beach, realizing the virus isn't 1,000 miles from him, but he's safe, isn't he? Because of the fear that has been implanted into, nothing to do with masks, it has to do with fear. This is new. And I'll tell you, it's right on schedule. Not COVID, not the virus, not the controversies, but the fear that was implanted into a population that stayed. Do you see how easy it is to manipulate those with fear? And it's not over. You will see it continue. This is an old energy that doesn't want you to awaken with any kind of light. That says perhaps, just perhaps, there are other ways. When you get through the pandemic, there are other ways to see this, even without seeing those who have recovered. And I gave you those too, and I'll give them to you again now. You've got light. You can turn to that which is your light and your consciousness. And after this pandemic is gone, you can say, "Dear Spirit, let nothing touch me that's inappropriate for my body. Let that which is my immune system be strengthened because of a higher consciousness that I have. And if that is something I should have, a virus in my body, let it be just like a cold or the flu, which we've had before. And then I recover. And then I move on." And that, dear one, is the common sense approach at this point in time, at the end of the pandemic, where you would not then be afraid for the rest of your life. And there are those who want you to be. Because if they can control your fear, then you will not have light. And I will tell you yet again, and as I had so many times, that the way you shut down light is by creating fear. There will still be those who want this to be controversial. You see, you mean those who told us this and that were not right? That is not what I'm telling you. I am saying to you that they used fear as the tool. And they could have used compassion. They could have had a compassion of kindness and accuracy in order to get through these things in a better way. Masks or no masks, it doesn't matter. They could have handled it differently. They handled it in an old paradigm method, which has made the planet afraid. If and when this happens again, I would hope that there would be light workers in places that would say, here's what is happening. Here's what you can do. Here are all the ones recovering. Here's the hope. So that you won't have the fear for the rest of your life. And as we said in Iceland, when this all started in the beginning of 2020, that there would be those afraid till their last breath. And there were, and there are. And it's not needed. It's not needed. How many of them were robbed of their light at that moment in time and still are, and walk around afraid? Viruses are alive. Dear ones, I've told you they have a consciousness, not like yours, but there is. There is a survival within a virus. Did you remember what I have told you before? That when your consciousness meets theirs, there are ways of mitigating them and reducing them to the attributes of a common cold, or perhaps a week or two of discomfort, and not death. That these things are controllable by consciousness, and it's been done over and over. There is so much more here than you were ever told. Don't be frightened of the biology out there when you have so many tools that can thwart them, mitigate them, make them like just a common cold or a flu, even though there are those who will tell you they're deadly. Get away from them and wear a mask for the rest of your life, no matter where you are. It's time to wake up and see that which is an agenda by those who would give you fear in so many layers, in so many reasons, in so many ways, so that you won't show your light. I warned you that there would come a time when the darkness would start to battle your very light. And sometimes they'll come at you in ways you don't expect. And they just did. Don't let this be controversial. Just listen to me and understand. Don't let anybody make you afraid. It's not worth losing your light. The God that created you knows your name and created light in you, which can then just expand so much. Now that you're through this, let the light shine. Let the light shine. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Following up on my partner's answer and the meditation you just heard, there are those who would wring their hands and say, I see the evil around me or in humanity. How can we fight the darkness? The answer I have always given, dear ones, is you never have to fight the darkness. All you have to do is create light. That's all. The darkness cannot exist when light is there. It cannot. And in that, we present yet again the idea that the light around you that you create yourself is far, far more effective than you think. Instead of trying to fight that which is dark, creating light almost does it for you. And the darkness starts to then diminish by itself. We're doing a series of 4 channelings this month. And if you could title them, they're all about timing. So far, we have given you 2 examples of timing in 2 categories, and this is the 3rd. And this one is for you. It's about you in your life and timing that is critical and important for you. Now, this particular message has been taught by my partner for years. But he and others are aware that the messages that he teaches sometimes have not been seen by the many who are starting to then come online, as they say, wake up to grander truths, as they say, and perhaps tune in to this particular message. So we're going to give it to you again. And I want to make sure you truly hear this, because it is so unusual and different from what you expect. The subject is the timing of what you have that's spiritual. So many of you listening to my voice right now, watching this program, perhaps either live or in a replay, have had inklings, intuitions, even direct messages from Spirit about your life, or perhaps what you were supposed to do in the future, or what you're supposed to create. And you have all along felt that perhaps this was it. Time to write a book, perhaps. Time to open some kind of spiritual center or a healing practice, perhaps. And in this new energy, there is a grander kind of communication. And what I mean by that, you might have had an intuition. Yes, I've always wanted to do this, or yes, this is what I know that I'm here for. And then in this new energy, that will be enhanced, almost as though you're getting a direct message from Spirit. Yes, this is what you're to do. And if you have been so fortunate to feel this in such a way that you now understand, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do, what is next for you? Well, the answer for you is obvious. You do it. And so for those of you who perhaps got a message to start a healing center or some other program or an online program of something, you begin it. And you say, well, how can I start, or what can I do, or this or that? And perhaps if it's ambitious, you have to rent something or go someplace or start whatever it is. And it doesn't work. Now, there are so many of you who've had this happen in an older energy. And sometimes in that older energy, it comes to you in a way that is so profoundly there. And so in that energy, you've actually tried it, and you started. But you reached a block here and there, and the people weren't there or right for you, or the funding wasn't right for you, or didn't come, or you started it on your own and tried to fund it yourself, and it didn't work. And that's even worse, because that then, of course, is a scar. It's a scar on that which you think is your spiritual goal. You tried it, it didn't work, even though you got a message that it was supposed to. So what happens next? Let's just say that there are some of you listening right now who had a big message in the past to do something, and you tried it and it didn't work. I have a message for all of you. And this is the message. Are you ready? Who said you were to do it now? And the answer you would have, is, of course I'm supposed to do it now. And this is where it gets good, because here is where your linearity and your humanness get in the way of spiritual messages. In your life, dear ones, any authority figure, whether it was in school, or whether it was home, or whether it was your boss at work, when they said, I want you to do this, they meant when? And the answer is now. But when Spirit shows you something, it's not that way. Here is the message I really, truly want to get across to you today about timing for these things for yourself. And here's the message. The first step is you receive confirmation, or you start to collect that which your intuition says is what you're supposed to do. And collect it meaning that you start finding the ideas that will go into it and what you might do to make it and accomplish it. But you don't actually do it until the timing is right. Now, for those of you who tried something when you thought the timing was right in a past energy and it didn't work, it's harder for you to do it again, because you already think you failed. How linear of you. All you did was you did it at the wrong time. Well, then the next question is, well, how do I know the right time? And the answer is really good. It will be shown to you. There will be no question. When it's right, somebody will come up to you, like maybe a year later. You're supposed to build a healing center. You got all ready to go, perhaps, and nothing fall into place. And so now you're sitting there saying, I failed. And a year later, somebody comes up to you and says, you know, I'd like to build a healing center with you, and I've got all the resources. And you go, oh, yes, this would be a good thing, because you realize you should have waited. There are many of these things that we present to you slowly. We give you confirmation, and Spirit loves you so much that it's not going to let you sit and wallow in wonder. When you have something really good, light to spread to this planet, programs that'll work, classes to do, books to write, healing centers to build. And that will then be given to you as an aha and a yes, and this is why you're here, dear one. And then we're saying, stop and wait. Wait for the right things to come along, and they will. They will. Because it was given to you for that reason, not so you can sit there and wonder if you failed. Spirit loves you enough to go in the second round with you, to show you the ones that you perhaps were waiting for, or the resources that perhaps you were waiting for, or perhaps, even in the case of my partner, the information that was missing that now would be given to you that completes the puzzle. So again, we tell you, you have a very linear idea of when, and that has to do with timing. Spirit loves you enough to give you information in advance for you to look at and let mature and grow upon. And then when the timing is right, to activate that which you knew you came for. Does that make sense to you, dear ones? That there would be that much love. It doesn't happen all at once. It doesn't have to happen all at once. It's up to you completely. So the next time you get this wonderful idea, or perhaps you're shown something that you truly are here to do, and you say, I knew it. Don't then go off and do it immediately. Stop for a moment and say, is it complete? Is it ready? Do I have the resources? And those perhaps I'm supposed to meet who will then complete the picture. And if it doesn't feel right, then wait. And know it's okay to wait. And nothing will be harmed in waiting for the right things at the right time. Timing is the key, dear ones. And we are with you in the timing. We'll supply you with what you need in order to accomplish those things that you came for. It's a great message about timing that's personal, isn't it? There's more. I am Kryon, in love with humanity. And so it is.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Let's continue this theme of what you might be able to do for yourself. I'm going to entitle this particular channeling, Keeping the Light. There have been so many who would say, how do I maintain that which I believe in a world which is darker than I thought it would be? Indeed, this is a time of revelation, truly of revolution, when it comes to dark and light. And one of the things that I have told you about an awakening planet is that before the light emerges, there is a period of darkness, seemingly, especially to the light worker. And I've akined this to the metaphor of what happens, even in your home, when suddenly you turn on a much brighter light than you've ever had. And the answer is, you see the dirt. That's what's happening. And it will continue to happen on this planet for some time. And so in this transition period, there is revelation. You are seeing things that you didn't see before, because the light is brighter. Now, your perception to many is darkness. You'll say, there are so many things that I'm seeing now that never were there before. The world is getting worse. That is a perception. What if the light is being turned on and the things that you're seeing now were always there? You're just now seeing them perhaps a little clearer. So the question remains, how do I hold my light when this is happening on the planet? Or it's happening perhaps even in my house, where the light is turning on and brighter and you're starting to see things you didn't see before, perhaps even within yourself. So keeping the light is actually a good question. Is there a way for you to maintain that which you know is a loving attitude? The awareness that you have of a greater source, the awareness you might have of love for you. And all of these things seem to be diminishable with life. You get beat up a little, they say. With life, we're very aware. Let me tell you something that we have said before to every single human old soul that listens to me right now. You are not here by accident. Truly. And I mean that right now in this lifetime. On the planet going through what it's going through, you planned this. And as an old soul, you really planned this. And that is to say that you've gone through enough incarnations, and you've gone through enough lifetimes, and you've experienced enough things, so that you are actually far more ready for this than you think. And that's why you're here. You might say you are the graduates of energy. You've seen so many things before that this is just another one. And here you go again. But now it's different. This new energy, this new normal. Are there any steps that you could take on a regular basis? The things that perhaps we could suggest that you do on a routine basis and mean them, that would actually create more light in your life? The answer is yes. And all the facilitators who work with humans know this. It's about the linearity you have. It's about talking to your subconscious. It's about the affirmations you do. It's about keeping the light going in you. And yes, there are some things that work. And you might say, well, they sound just like routine things, and they are, and they work. And they work because they're a routine for you. Your subconscious needs the things I am going to suggest. And through the routine and the repetition of them, what happens eventually is that you cognize them to be absolute truth, like affirmations. You might say you're reframing your subconscious by the repetition of the light that you're going to give it. So let's start at the beginning. I'll give you just a few things that will help you. Number one, when you get up in the morning, whether you're alone, whether you're with a partner, when you put your feet on the floor and swing them around from where you're sleeping, wherever it is, as soon as your feet hit the floor, a routine. Think to yourself or say it out loud as you wish, whatever. Dear Spirit, thank you for this day. I am dearly loved. What this says is you're thankful and you're expecting good things that day. Now that is an attitude that often is not there when you swing your feet around and put them on the floor. Many times you're weary, you're tired, oh, it's another day, an alarm has just jarred you to awakening, all of these things. And now this is a routine. Your feet hit the floor. Thank you, Spirit, for loving me and the day to come. That's one. You start doing that every single day. Watch what happens. It's about the expectation of what's to come. So often the expectation is a bad day. Some have actually verbalized, it's another one. Here it is again. And that verbalization, by the way, tells the universe, you're probably going to have a bad day. Because that's what you're verbalizing. You must enjoy it. Again, you attract what you think. You attract what you say. Now, that one's easy. The next two are much harder. Number two, find something you can do during the day which carries compassionate action. Now, compassionate action is when you see something or someone or situation and stop for a moment and send your energy thoughts to it. Energy is action. Energy is energy. Thoughts are energy. You can quote me on that. Energy is energy. It's so profound that humans have missed this, that what you think has consciousness, and that is energy. You can send it as energy, and it works. You put it into the field. It goes wherever you want it to go. If you do it in groups, it's even stronger. So, dear ones, I tell you, compassionate action. Find something, someone you either know or do not to send energy to. Now, here is what happens. And we have told you this before. There is another thing that develops when you do this. And that is a healing that comes back to you. Now, I say this again, and because I said energy is energy, I said energy twice because in energy, it's always a pair. In physics, everything happens in pairs. There is a plus and a minus, almost like a magnet, on all energy, on all physics. There's two sides to the story. So when you send compassionate action, that's the one side. What happens next is two things. Number one, the persons or people or one person or individuals that you send it to receive it. That's their reception. And we say that's one of the energies for them. You also have another one. Something comes back at you. Your subconscious, your body, it knows what you're doing. And you feel that. Some of you, this is a healing experience. Send compassion and love and healing to another, starts to heal yourself. That is, I'll tell you, the physics of consciousness. How do you like that so far? Is that too technical for any of you? When you send compassion, you receive something back. I'll tell you that someday there will be a formula for it because there'll be a recognition of the physics of consciousness, measurable, even the polarity of it and what happens to those who receive it. That is how profound this is for you to do. That's number two. Number three, it's hard. I've saved the hardest one for last. Some part of the day, you must find some way to laugh. And I don't mean pretend to. There's got to be something that's funny. And if you don't have anything that's joyful and funny in your home, in your life, in your work, then go find it. There are things that have made you laugh in the past. Go find it. It's a funny drawing. It's a cartoon. It's a joke. It's something perhaps on your media. You find it and laugh. Dear ones, this is critical. You must develop joy in some way, even a fraction of it every day. Even in the midst of your depression. I told you this was hard. Find something you can smile at, even if you don't have the guffaw of a laugh. Find something that amuses you, that you can go back and chuckle at and say, this is really funny. Remind yourself perhaps of a funny time. This is really funny. Or perhaps you'll have help from a partner who says, remember the time when you did this or that? And you laugh and says, yes, I do. Dear ones, these are the three things that I guarantee will create life every single day that has light. Light every single day, maintaining, keeping that light. That's what this is about. And this is what will happen. Now, I didn't even mention the affirmations, did I? That's another graduate area, if you want to, Start affirming who you are and perhaps what you believe. I didn't go there because the first three that I gave you are personal, things that you can do for yourself that you can understand, that are more concrete than believing anything else or reading an affirmation. These are the things that every single one of you can do that will make such a difference day by day in keeping the light. In the morning, during the day, during the evening, anytime you want to. These are the ones. We give you these things in love because we see the light that is coming to this planet. And we want you to be there, understanding it, rejoicing it, and sustaining it. I'm crying in love with humanity. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the first channeling of this month. There will be 4, just like always. And in this, we title them. These 4 are going to be the love connection. Dear ones, I cannot speak too much about something that is the core, the seed of the greatest energy that exists. And that is that which comes from the Creator. We'll say this again, perhaps in another channel, but this great love is the image you hear that you are made of. Made in the image of the Creator, and that image is love. And so each one of these channels will feature an attribute of love. All 4 channels available to everyone for free on my partner's website. We're going to start this one with the love from those that you don't see, or those that you think perhaps are even not there, depending upon what you have been told in this culture, depending upon the doctrine that you've learned, pretending perhaps that they're there or not there. What do you think of guides and angels? What do you think of the invisible ones? What do you think of that which some say you're foolish to think beyond yourself, or that you're independent? No one's going to help you. Have you been told that? The opposite is true, and it's true in a manner and an energy that is overwhelming in its truth and its beauty. Dear ones, here is the truth. You don't come here alone, ever. No human comes alone. The soul is something that is a beautiful vehicle that comes with you. It does not stay on the other side of the veil, dear ones. This multidimensionality of your soul is right now sitting in the chair that you are watching this in. It is with you. Now, perhaps that is a little less linear than you wanted to hear, but it's true. And in this soul is you in many forms. That's the multidimensional you. The yous that have been in the past lives that somehow still exist with you. A consciousness that never goes away that is you. And that which we have talked about before, a guide set which comes in with you and is the same every single lifetime. The same guides, the same angelic presence is with you. Some have felt, well, it's an extension of me. You're a bit right about that. They feel like you. They're part of the higher self that you say is you. You cannot separate these things into linear groups and faces and numbers. These belong to you in a multidimensional state which don't have singularity or shapes or faces or numbers, and yet it feels like it. It feels like it because they are so personal. I want to tell anyone watching
this is the first time you've heard of this, I would love for you to sit alone tonight and just call them in. If you're there, show me. Go ahead. And don't be surprised if you allow it and if you mean it when you say it, that there might be some tingling that goes on. And that is a yes. That cause and effect relationship of you opening your heart and asking that question is one of the most beautiful things a human can do. I want you to understand that as they come in with you, there is a tremendous love they bring. The love for you, the soul that you are, the human being in the expression that you are. Their purpose is to help you. That is why they are called guides. They are angelic. You don't see them. You feel them. And in their feeling, they also shape your reality if you let them. They're the ones who are the way showers. They're the ones who will help you to go to the right place at the right time or make decisions through intuition that they will influence, that says this door, not that door. They're the ones that are in the field with you that we have spoken of before. They keep you out of chance, dear ones. There are those who still say, I'm in a turkey shoot, as they say in my partner's country. That is, I'm rolling the dice. Every day I step out of the house and anything could happen to me. Not if you're in touch with your guides. Not if you understand the purpose of angelic purpose, the reason you're here. These guides are the ones that often keep you safe, but not unless you acknowledge that it's possible or that they're there. Why is that, Kryon? Why do we have to do things in order to activate, if you want to say that, the guides? And here's the answer. You have free choice not to. Did you hear that? All your life, if you want to ignore all of them and do your best, when you come back across the veil, we're going to have the same party for you as the one who engaged them when they were 4. 4 years old. Do you hear that? That's no judgment. There is no judgment. But there is opportunity. And that is for those who want to understand that there is love when you come here. And they come with you. I want to paint another picture. I've done it so often before. I want to paint a picture. Here you are on this planet, doing the best you can to survive. Trying your best, perhaps, to be a compassionate individual. Trying to dodge that which you call chance. Sometimes it makes you feel like you're a victim of the energy all around you because perhaps things don't go well. And here are guides who are sitting, looking at you, doing nothing. Because you've never greeted them. You've never said thank you. You've never said, I want you to help guide me. I want you to push my intuition. I want you to help me listen. You've never done it. Perhaps because you've been told they don't exist, or that's silly, or that you have to trust in something else, or perhaps there's a prophet, or perhaps you've been told you can't even talk to God. Somebody else has to do it for you. All of those things get in the way of this perception that you have come in with divinity. But because you have free choice, nothing's going to happen until you activate that. Activating means that you sit again and say, I want you in my life. You're real. I believe it. Thank you for loving me. Can you imagine the love they have for you to watch you flail around, believe what you want to, and all that time, figuratively, they have their hand out saying, take my hand, just do it. Don't you feel us? Don't you understand? Don't believe anyone else but your own core energy. Drop into your heart and see if what you've been told is right, and we will come in if you wish. All your life, they may sit there with their hand out, perhaps to your last breath. That's how much they love you. They never give up. They never give up. They're always there because that's why they're with you. They come with you. Did you know that there's a meeting between all of you before you step into the wind of birth and you come here that says, this time, please, feel us. Don't believe everything you're told. Follow your heart. Believe us. And let us then help guide all the things to take you into the good places where there are no potholes. And intuition will help you meet the right partners and people so there'll be a lot less of the issues that perhaps you had the last lifetime. Let this be a lifetime of beauty, no betrayal, of compassion and love and good things. That's why they're here. There's so much love. Your guides, your angels are real. They even have your name on them, the name we sing in light that you have. They belong to you. There is a system, dear ones, of love. There is a connection with the love of the Creator, and part of it comes in with you, always with you, waiting for you to acknowledge it so you can move on into a divine reality that you deserve as your lineage of an old soul. I wouldn't tell you these things unless they were real. There's no reason to sell you something when you already have it. I am just telling you to take it. See for yourself if it's real or not. Open that beautiful, beautiful area that will flow into that which is your mind and your heart with a grander truth, perhaps, than you've ever been told. That's why I'm here. I'm here to give you information, perhaps, that you've not heard before, that is for you, that is loving, very loving. It's not a doctrine we're asking you to follow. It's love we're asking you to follow, the love of God. I'm crying in love with humanity, continuing to give these lessons so that some of you will have a life change and understand that you're always loved and you're never alone. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. What a time this is. If you heard the channeling from last week, I said these words. It's here. This is the shift. The one we told you was coming. This is the light coming to the planet, although it looks odd in so many ways. In these last 2 years, there's been a major shakeup of so many things. There have been decisions to make. How did you do? There have been so many things presented to you, and now it even continues, as I said it would. This is a time that you were born for. We gave a channel not too long ago. It had to do with that which you experienced even before you got here. We spoke of that beautiful consciousness of your soul before you ever get to this planet, deciding to come. And almost all of you listening to this program, even the ones who casually are listening, had a choice to come or not to come during a time that might be volatile. Those of you who are seniors, you had a choice, even during that which was the Cold War, thinking perhaps there would be truly a nuclear war, an Armageddon, the end of times, even that which was predicted, perhaps even by many scriptures, and you came anyway. And I told you that there was a chance, that the ancients had called it, that this precession of equinoxes that moves you into the 2000s instead of being the end would be the beginning. Did I ever mention to you that the ancients were enamored, you might say, over this time, this precession of the equinox time? They all had prophecies over it. And they all gave prophecies that could go either way. You see this even in that which is the Hopi prophecy rock. A split would occur. You would have a choice to go one way or another, just about now. This was foreseen. I told you about it and have been for many years. You knew this was going to happen before you got here, the potential of it going either way. And you came. That's why we love humanity so much. Those listening to this now, all of you, we know you're here and you're listening at whatever time you've chosen to see this. Knowing this, that the love you have for humanity, for the earth, for each other, you came, old soul, because you knew you could make a difference. This particular channel, last week's, and the ones to follow on this month will all have this one theme. It's here. It's time to start planting the seeds that you came with. Last week we told you it would be like a farmer who had one set of circumstances all his life, time to plant, time to harvest, and that something shifted on the planet energetically or maybe weather-wise that gave him a perfect scenario to plant and harvest like no other. And it gave him crops that lasted longer and were larger and more abundant, and it was amazing. Same seeds, perhaps. That is what is occurring now. Everything you did and tried in the old energy that was sacred, metaphysical, now can blossom in a way that never has been seen on the planet. If you've put this together, it had to be this way. For even though light comes out, and we call it light coming to this planet, what it changes is you. It doesn't fall upon the soil of the earth. It falls on you, old soul. And the tools that you came in with start to expand. This has been the theme, if you figured this out, for all of these years since 2012. This is the time. But suddenly it is in your face, as you would say, because the changing earth, the changing times are right here for you to see. Everything I told you, that when light starts to come out, the darkness objects. And that's what's going on. So it's time for those seeds you came in with to be planted. Now, this is a metaphor. Don't look for your seeds. The metaphor is this. You had them when you got here, truly. But you might say they were on the back shelf. You might have tried to trot them out and use them earlier on in an old energy, and there was disappointment. Disappointment. They simply didn't work the way you thought. You wanted to do this, write a book, build a healing center, do all of these things that were ingrained into you, old soul, and it didn't work. And now we tell you this, you did it too soon. Try again. Don't be daunted by it didn't work in the old energy. It's almost like you were on another planet, you tried it and it didn't work, and this is a new planet. This is a new world. This is one where the light is starting to come out and manifest itself right in the pockets of the old souls who are currently listening. What a deal. I want you to think for a moment. What is it that you would plant? There are many kinds of things. For yourself, perhaps. For others, perhaps. I will give you an axiom. The seeds of spirit are not things. They are concepts. So every seed that you carry, every one that you carry, that metaphor, the thing that you have, that you can then plant and manifest on this planet, is a concept. Now, some of these concepts are personal. But in planting the personal seeds, they harvest for the world. Let me explain that yet again. When you change, the things around you change. It's the example we have given many times of how the field works. What you have that changes in you affects everyone. And it's not just perhaps those around you in your family or your partnerships or your businesses. These things that you have, that you place upon yourselves and develop yourselves, go into a field that literally surrounds the planet. You might say that individually, you change something which is much, much greater and bigger. Individually, the drops in the ocean, they change what the ocean is. If you think about how many drops there are, the salinity of them or whatever, it happened many times for them to be what they are, but each single drop made a difference. It's different with the field because certain kinds of drops affect the field in a greater way than others. For instance, you'll say, well, there are those putting anger in the field. Yes, there are. And there are those putting compassion and kindness in the field. Yes, there are. So here's what I'll tell you that has been told to you over and over. One is greatly more powerful than the other. One is an emotion. The other one is magnificence. Can you guess which is which? It's time for you to plant something. Let me make a suggestion on what it might be. Each one of you are magnificent. Each one of you carry the attributes of mastery. What would it be like for you and the planet if you took out those seeds of mastery and planted them right now? And here's what you can think to yourself, or here's what you can conceive of. You can conceptualize this. The seeds are of your own mastery. I have defined what is involved in this. You think differently. You act differently. You're more mature. Things in your life start to change. You're more relaxed. And you start to plant those seeds right now. And you see yourself pushing them into the ground, covering them with dirt, watering them, and the sun is out now in a way it never has been before, and you start to see results almost immediately. The harvest happens simultaneously with the planting. That is extremely multidimensional. No time is involved, and immediately you start seeing the results in your own life. You've taken an action that you conceived of, mastery. What happens with mastery? Mastery is a slow development inside you of your magnificence. And you start to feel it. It comes through intuition, changes in the way that you see others, the changes on how you act when certain things take place, and what you see that you wish to do that might be different from last year or even last week. That's mastery. And what happens next is the start of something grand. As you begin to harvest that energy that you have planted, that you brought with you for this time, right now, when the light is starting to come out, that energy goes everywhere. It's designed to, dear ones, those seeds, those metaphoric, multidimensional seeds of mastery, they zing out of the ground and they go into the field, they go around the world, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference. This is the invitation for you right now, to conceptualize, taking something that came with you, that you know you brought. This is the seed of magnificence, of mastery. And you decide, I'm going to plant it now. See yourself pushing it into the ground, covering it with the soil, watering it, and up starts coming something beautiful. Perhaps the first thing you hear is music. Maybe you feel the benevolence of your guides hugging you and the kindness pouring into your heart, perhaps that you've needed all along. And you start feeling a change in you, in your body, in how you think. Welcome to the shift. Welcome to the change I told you about, that you came here for. You're the ones. It's here, it's time. You're the ones. This is why I told my partner to start this show. It's for the time. This particular streaming episode, all of this, designed for you. The ones who would watch this kind of a show and be the members in this kind of a show, an organization, a program, are the very ones, the old souls with the seeds. I am Kryon, in love with humanity. And so it is.